Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Hey, everyone. Great to see everyone here. There's some familiar faces and lots of new faces as well. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. If you're just joining us, just while we're all gathering here, if you can just add to the chat where you are and what you do creatively, that would be awesome. So where you are in the world and what you do creatively. And we'll be getting underway very, very soon. Great. Look at all these amazing faces joining us, Vera. This is amazing, isn't it?
I know. So awesome to have everyone here. I'm so excited. And we're going to talk about some cool stuff today. It's going to be amazing.
I love it. Awesome. So everyone will be getting underway soon, but if you just joined us, sharing in the chat where you are in the world and also what you do creatively. So Stacey here, New York City photographer. I love that. Toronto illustrator. Oh, I love it. Fantastic. Amazing. Beautiful. Fantastic. Netherlands, leading artist and designer, New Jersey. Wow, amazing. I love it. So many great people here. Fantastic.
So many amazing. I know.
All right.
Hello, Ontarian.
Yeah, I love it. Austin, Texas. I love it. Hey, Elena. Fantastic. Illustration, Serbia. Very, very cool. Look where everyone is from. So if you haven't used the chat before on Zoom, just have a look at it because we're going to be using it quite a lot during this session. And you can add things there, you can add thoughts, and then towards the end, we're going to be adding questions as well. I think we might get underway, Vera. What do you think?
Yes, let's get underway. Hi, everyone. Right. I am so amazed to see you all here. It's going to be amazing. We're going to talk about some really cool stuff here. And basically, one of the biggest challenges that we all face as creatives, and that is how to make time for the important stuff, the creative work, our bread and butter, right? So I'm going to start by introducing myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Vera Drmanovski. There is no Drmanovski. There's no drama in my name, just Drmanovski. And I'm a lettering artist and illustrator based in Toronto, Canada, currently. I specialize in decorative lettering and illustration, and my work is really known for its intricate and heavily detailed artwork. I finished graphic design in 2010, and prior to becoming a full-time freelancer, I worked as a graphic designer and art director for 11 years. And in January 2021, I parted ways with my day job and became a full-time freelancer. Well, you know, I've done some freelancing stuff while I was doing my full-time job. So there was kind of like, you know, juggling two things. But once I became a full-time freelancer, once I became a business owner, to correct myself, that was a whole different game level. And with that came a lot more responsibilities, something that I pretty much didn't have before that. And when I started freelancing, it became really overwhelming for me. I felt very overwhelming. I felt like I knew what I wanted to do with my business, but I just couldn't focus on my goals. Everything was very foggy, and I just felt very overwhelming. And I remember talking to my friends, my lettering ladies, about this, how I feel this, you know, it was so strange to me how I couldn't really focus on what I actually wanted to accomplish. And of course, because of that, I didn't see my business grow as fast as I wanted it to. And of course, one thing happens to all creatives, the imposter syndrome kicked in, right? I started to doubt myself. Can I actually do this? And seeing others growing their businesses very faster than me also didn't help. And, you know, social media kind of does that to us and all that. So basically, I started to doubt myself. But then I realized that the one thing that I really didn't doubt is my creative skills. Why? Because I spent over 7 years really working hard to to obtain the skills that I needed to run a creative business, to do the work that I needed to do. And I realized, so I shouldn't be having an imposter syndrome because I can do the work that needs to be done. And, you know, I know that I can deliver the work that my clients need. But what I needed was the help with everything else. So basically, creative skills, good, everything else, bad. So I knew that I actually had to ask for help. So when I was talking to my lettering ladies, one of my lettering ladies mentioned that she actually has a business coach that she worked with, and she was very happy with him. So I asked her, who is it? And she told me about Logan at that point. So I looked up Logan and I saw that, Logan is someone who specializes in helping creatives start and grow their businesses. And for me, that was it. Like, I didn't look any further. I was sold, because it was really important for me to find a coach that I can relate to, in terms of to understand what it is. First of all, to understand the nature of a creative person, and then to be able to connect. So I was actually contemplating on contacting Logan at the time, I remember, and he kind of beat me to it. So all of a sudden I see a message in my Instagram, like, from Logan. Hi, how are you? He introduced himself and we started chatting. And honestly, I took it as a sign. I'm like, okay, this definitely is a sign. So without really giving it a lot of thought, of course I gave it a lot of thought, but really it was really, really clear to me that the universe is giving me a sign that I need to take on coaching, and I decided to do that. So I joined his program. And ever since I really joined his program, and I'm seriously talking about this from the heart, it's like the fog has been lifted. From the moment we started in the program, he showed me how I can do this business side in a very easy way, how to set the goals. First of all, I didn't even know how to set properly goals. Like, I was always setting way too many goals, which were basically not achievable. And then I would feel bad because I couldn't achieve them all, because I just overdid it. So he taught me how to set the goals, how to set action plan to actually, and steps, clear steps, how to get to those goals, how to make a business plan, how to figure out my marketing strategy, how to do the outreach, which was something I never did before. Like, Logan knows, like, I was like afraid to do, like, literally, like, fear, afraid to do the outreach. So all these things that basically is a responsibility of a business owner. But that's a lot. Like, when you think about it, that's actually quite a lot that one creative has to do, or one business owner has to do, like wearing so many hats. So basically what I had to do is, also in the program, he showed us how to organize our time so that we can do all these things and have time to do the creative work, because basically creative work is what pays the bills. Everything else is behind the scenes, and it's just like, it's like under the water, and creative work is the tip of the iceberg. So who is Logan? So we heard about who is Logan. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit more. Logan is, well, I'm going to start by saying he is definitely one of us. And what I mean by that, like, he is a creative person who has started and grew his business, creative business, for 11 years. He has an entrepreneurship master's. So basically, he knows the business, he knows that stuff really well. And he's also a scientist, but I will let him tell you more about that.
I love it.
I already talked about why I picked Logan, but like, for me, Logan, the reason I picked Logan is because his knowledge doesn't come just from schools and books. Like, as I said, like, he has the school for business, but he has lived through thick and thins of starting, building, and growing his creative business. So he understands the struggles and he also understands the personality of a creative person. We are, by nature, most of us are introverted, maybe even socially awkward. Like, I know I am. I have really struggled with networking skills, and that's something that's like way outside my comfort zone. So like, he understands that, and he knows how to encourage us and gives us tips on how to overcome those fears, because honestly, it's not easy. He is also someone that it's so super easy to connect. Like, he's so outgoing and easy to talk to. And for me, that was really important. Someone that I can just connect like I knew him for years, the first time I spoke with him. He's also vetted. And what I mean by vetted is like he has worked with hundreds of creatives and helped them start and grow his business and leave their day jobs, follow their dreams, and make life that they really wanted to live. In addition, he has also worked with universities and other creative programs around the world, helping creatives learn and grow. So without further ado, here's Logan.
Amazing. Hey, thank you so much, Vera. I appreciate your kind words. So great to meet everyone here. Honestly, super excited. And there's a few familiar faces and also lots of people here that I don't recognize, which is awesome. So we will say, feel free to have your camera on. We are recording, but it's just recording Vera and I, so you won't be recorded for that, but we would love to be able to see you if possible. Now, if you're eating lunch or something and you don't want to have your camera on, it's totally fine as well, but we'd love to be able to see you where possible. Awesome. So I will add a couple of things to the intro, and then we're going to dive in because we have some amazing tips we're going to be covering around this subject of really trying to find time for the creative side as well as the business side of what you do. So to start with, Vera's sort of shared most of the story, which is great. And yeah, I had my own business for 11 years. It was in the live event space in New Zealand. So if you haven't picked it yet, I am a New Zealander. And I actually happen to be in New Zealand at the moment, but I do run our coaching business fully remotely. So I spend a lot of time sort of between North America and also Europe as well. But I happen to be in New Zealand for another few days before heading to Colorado later this week, which will be good. So my background, as I said, I had my own creative business. It was in the live event space in New Zealand for 11 years. I eventually sold that business. But yeah, basically early on, I also did my business masters, so entrepreneurship masters, because I wanted to learn more about this intersection of creativity and business. And that sort of went down a road where I ended up teaching in creative business for a whole number of years next to running my own creative business. So my creative business was basically full-time, and then I was doing some part-time teaching, primarily with universities across New Zealand, right up to a master's level, but also a lot of public programs as well. And then eventually started creating my own programs in 2015. And then when I then sold the creative business, I then went full-time into coaching and helping awesome visual creatives to grow their businesses. And these days we work with people all over the world. We work with a lot of people throughout North America and Europe primarily. However, other people dotted around elsewhere too. And people are kind of broken up into different groups. The first group are like, hey, I've got a day job and maybe I do a little bit of freelance, earn a little bit of money creatively on the side. I want to turn this into a full-time income. So that's really group one. They really want to really get it started. They're really at that early stage. Group two are basically like, hey, I'm pretty much full-time on the business, but the earnings are not full-time and I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, it's not working, I can't figure it out. I really need to bring this to the next level within that. So we help those people grow as well. And then the final group we work with are people with huge followings, a very small amount of people, about 10% of people we work with. Some of you might know Jess Miller, for example, have these big followings online that we help as well, but a very small part of our audience. So look, that's kind of the fast forward version. The other thing I will share is that I also run retreats as well, entrepreneur retreats with a good friend of mine, Kat Coke, that some of you may know as well. So we've got our Morocco retreat coming up in May. We had France and Spain previously as well. So that's the fast forward version, but I'm dying to dive in. Just before we do that, what I am going to share is that we are giving away 3 freebie coaching calls as part of this here, as part of this call. So I'm going to throw that link in the chat now. If this is something you're interested in, we'll send it out afterwards as well. Pop open that link now and you can fill in that survey form. And then we'll be picking 3 people to get on a freebie coaching call with me as well, which is good. It's also a great way to get some extra business tips and advice too, if you fill that in. But what we're going to do now is we're going to dive in because we've got some really good stuff to cover today. So we're really talking about this idea of effectively it's business hacks for creatives and really helping you to get some ideas to really lean into this opportunity. Now, this is for wherever you're at. If you're like, hey, I'm considering starting a creative business, or I have started, but I don't know what to do next, or hey, Logan, I've been doing this for years. These are all relevant tips and ideas. And these are some of the things that we cover, obviously during our programs as well, but this is something we're going to be covering during this session. So look, the first one is around creating healthy boundaries for work. And I love this topic because when you think about you're moving into running a creative business and you get your freedom, you get your time back, one of the first things that can happen is you suddenly just working all the time. Right? Every hour, every day, you're passionate about what you do. You really care. You really want to grow this business. Whether you're selling products or you're working with clients or you're creating, you're designing, it can just kind of take over your life. And that's very easy to happen because you're passionate about it. And if you're not working every hour, every day, maybe that's showing you're not passionate about it. And we're like, no, you need to find that boundary. And this is where creating healthy boundaries around your work is super important. So I'm going to share a couple of different tips and ideas around this, but just fundamentally, we need to notice that is a challenge that a lot of people experience and struggle with. So the first thing I'll share is that you've got to figure out like how often you want to work and how many hours, whether this is something part-time or something full-time. You've got to really think about that because otherwise you'll always be working. So that might look like you saying, if you're full-time on your creative business, you could treat it like you did treat a day job and say, I'm going to work on my creative business from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You can actually choose to do that. But you could also be doing it part-time. You could also be choosing to do it only in mornings, or you could choose to work on Saturdays. You have the full power to decide. But if you don't have a plan around that, every single week, what can happen? Things will just bleed over. Suddenly you'll be up at 10 p.m. at night, still working on your business because you care about it, you're passionate about it. But if you don't create those strong boundaries, the next day you're going to be exhausted. And then a month into doing this, you're going to be completely burned out. And that's something that we need to avoid pretty much at all costs as well. We've spoken to many people who have experienced that burnout where they've just gone, actually, I don't know if I do want to do this because it's just so overwhelming. Another thing I'll talk about there is like, trying to find the blend of your creative side and your business side of the business. And I was speaking to one of our clients just recently last week about this, and they were really struggling to see how to find that boundary. They've got like the creative stuff that they love doing, the design, the creative side, and then there's the business side. And they were finding actually they were almost leaning into the business side almost too much because suddenly they weren't able to create. And part of that is once again making the time for these different parts of your business. So some of our clients do that by like having a creative day or a business day as part of their week. They might say, cool, on Thursdays, I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of my business admin. On Mondays, I'm going to spend the afternoon doing parts of the marketing side. But then Fridays is a dedicated creative only day. So these are some ideas to think about how you could do that. It doesn't have to be a day you get to design this, but it could be, okay, every afternoon at 2 p.m. for 2 hours, I'm going to work on the marketing part of my business, and you're really blocking it out that way. So one of the things I'm really sharing here is like, you get to design this, but it's important you do design it because a lot of people don't think about this stuff. They just, we all have a pile of stuff to get done and we just have to get it done at some point. And we'll tell you what, both Vera and I know that the list is absolutely endless in your creative business, both sides. On the creative side, you want to keep learning and growing, but also there's a ton to do on the business side as well. So would love to hear your thoughts on some of these things, Vera, and if there's anything that you wanted to add around this as well, you definitely can too.
Yeah, definitely. Like falling into that trap of working all the time. That's exactly what happened to me before I joined the program, because that's what I said. Like I had this fog of so many things that I needed to do, and like kind of doing, okay, I'm just going to say it, like half-assing everything. Like I just felt like I didn't really accomplishing much, but I felt like I was working all the time, doing so many different things, and pretty much, just at one point, like you feel burnout from everything. You just don't feel. I didn't feel like inspired to create. I didn't feel inspired to grow my business. I didn't feel like when somebody says social media to me, like I want to take a gun and shoot myself. Like it was just like everything was, just felt like so difficult for me to do. And when I learned how to basically, as you said, like schedule everything, structure my time and organize, put everything on my calendar, use the Asana to help me, like, literally color code everything that I needed to do and put it on certain days to do certain things. Yeah, that just, now I don't even feel like I'm working all the time. I have time to go for a walk with my husband. I have time to go swimming 3 times a week. Excuse me. Like, I just have time to do all my work and also to live. Like, I should say, because living is very important. Otherwise, what's the point of job? Like, of doing anything, of making money, like, if you don't have time to spend it. So yeah, definitely, it's like really important to set those boundaries and stick to them.
I love it. So powerful. And like, it makes me think when you're talking about like going for those walks or like taking time for yourself. I think one of the big shifts we help people talk about a lot, and we help people really realize is that stuff there actually helps that business. And I think that's huge. It's like actually taking that time for yourself, looking after yourself, going for those walks. That's actually working towards your business too. And I think that's a really interesting thing that people don't think about as well. So I'm going to move on to the next one here, which is working smarter, not harder. Right. So, sometimes, once again, passionate about the creative business, really want to make this thing work, really want to grow it. Well, the temptation is just to put more time in, put more hours in, take more of your energy and throw that into the business. You're spending more and more time at a desk or a table working on your business. We were talking about before the call, we're all bending over our computers or working on our designs. Like, it can really knock our postures out. Like, really, we've got to change that mindset, because that there is kind of the hustle mindset that we just don't like. Right now, there's different ways to define hustle, but this is really about not putting lots of time and energy into the wrong things. This is about being smarter. So everyone I speak to, when we talk about, whether they're interested in working with us, everyone says to me, one of the biggest challenges they have is time. Right? Everyone is short on time. Whether you have a day job, you've got family you're supporting, you've got all the balance and all the different things in your life, and then you're trying to work in your creative business as well. These things are hard, and time is a big challenge. So, a big part of that is, it's working smarter, not harder. And I'll say that the key here is working on the things that are going to actually matter, the things that are going to move the needle, as we say. So this is where we're going to talk just briefly about frogs. Vera and I have talked a lot about frogs before, and eating frogs. This is a really fun one. Some of you might have come across this idea. There's actually a book called Eat the Frog. That the frog is the thing in your business that you want to avoid. Right, the thing that you don't want to do today. It's the thing that the frogs. We don't want to eat the frog. And a frog is this big horrible creature that we have to take time to. What? We don't want to eat a frog. It sounds terrible, right? So the whole analogy, the idea comes from the idea that a client comes and puts a frog on your desk and says, hey, if you don't eat this frog today, I'm not going to work with you anymore. I'm not going to be paying you for your services. Right now, part of me says, well, maybe we need to fire that client because they're not the right client. We won't go down that road, but that's kind of the first thought. But the second thought is going, okay, well, I need to do this. I need to eat the frog. I need to get this annoying task done to maintain the client or to move my business forward. And the thing that we'll generally do is, we might eat the frog that day because we've got to that end of the day, but we're not going to do it right now. We're going to leave it to last. We're going to do everything else possible. We're going to become incredibly efficient at all the other tasks that we don't really need to do, but could do in our business. And this frog, the metaphor here is that the frog during the day just gets bigger and bigger and bigger because it's overtaking you. It's overwhelming your mind. So every time you're on another task, you're like, oh, but I need to eat the frog. I need to do this annoying thing, but I won't do it now. And you become incredibly inefficient and ineffective. And you feel kind of bad. You feel bad that you can't get things done because this frog is looming. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So the idea here is part of working smarter, not harder, is you've got to eat the frog. You've got to eat the frog at the start of the day. And this is something where in your creative business, you've got to get good at eating frogs, because some people say, well, can we just avoid having any frogs? It's like, well, that would be nice. However, the reality is there's always going to be frogs in your business, things that you need to get done, get out of the way, and then you can move on to other tasks. So a bit of a fun one, but really think about right now, like, what is that frog in your current business, or could even just be in your life, right? We won't go down that in too much, but we all have frogs in our lives as well, things we need to deal with, emails we need to send. Maybe it's a friend we should be reconnecting with or touching base with. So really good things to think about within that. Do you want to share any thoughts around frogs, Vera, and your ideas around that? It's definitely been a powerful part of our conversations.
Yes, definitely. Eating the frogs, honestly, it is very important to do those tasks that you absolutely hate and don't want to do right away, like the first thing in the morning, because every time I delayed, like I put it aside, like, oh, I'll do this like after I've done this, never got done. So I've really learned that frogs need to be eaten in the morning, and it's just something that you have to accept, and they're going to be there every day. You're going to have a different frog to eat, but it's just something that has to be done. And my suggestion is just do it. Don't think about it, like accept it as is. It's just part of the business. And once you do it, you actually feel very good about it. Like it's like this weight has been lifted off your shoulders, and you can just continue your day doing the good stuff.
I love it. So powerful. So it brings us to our next point. And these things are kind of all related, because a lot of the stuff we're talking about is how to find time, how to make time, how to do the right things so that you can do more of the stuff in your business that you like. And that might be the creative side of the business as well. More time for creative, more time for designing, more time for even learning and growing those sides. So this next one, we're going to talk about, okay, well, where should you be spending the time in your business? And I'm going to share something that we talk about on one of our modules in the program, which is basically around this productivity side of the business, and really thinking about, okay, what types of tasks do we spend our time on? What types of tasks can we spend our time on in our business? Because there's lots of different things. Like, as we said, the list is endless of what we can do, should do, might do, want to do, could do, like all these things are there, but should you do them? Are they the things that are going to move things towards the needle? And this is where there's this amazing thing called the time management matrix. You should Google it, and perhaps after this call, because it's really incredible. And it basically talks about how there's different levels of importance and urgency of tasks. So if you think about, if you look at a task you've got on your list right now, you might say, need to email this client. Now, that task, how important is it and how urgent is it? Now, if it's one of your clients, it's probably quite important. Now, is it urgent? Well, you might say, well, no, because it doesn't need to be done today. They just said, oh, get back to me sometime in the next 2 weeks. Well, it's not actually urgent then. It's important because it's a client, but it's not urgent. Now, the problem with that is effectively, without having good deadlines, the urgency is really low. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to email that client because we're too busy with all the other things, right? It might be important, but where's that urgency? So we can actually start to break down our different tasks into these things that are important, urgent, or not important, but still urgent, and important, but not urgent. So you can, and when I say a matrix, like there's these amazing quadrants in these different areas. There's also things that we all do that are not important and not urgent, yet we still do them. They're the time waster things that we do, procrastinating on them. Sometimes we do things that are urgent, right? You get a phone call, oh, just one moment, I've got a phone call here. It's urgent because it's ringing in my ear. It feels urgent, but you don't necessarily need to take that because it might not be important, but it's got a feeling of urgency. A friend messages us and we go, oh, I need to reply to them right now. Well, I'm not saying our friends are not important, but is it important today to do this right now when you think about the other things you have to do? So I kind of love this quadrant, because the key here is that the tasks that are important and urgent, they're probably just going to get done. Or sometimes we're avoiding them and they're the frogs, right? That can certainly happen. But generally, those things are going to get done. That client that said, hey, I need this by the end of the day tomorrow, I really need this thing done. It's pretty urgent, and it's a client who's paying us, so that's important. So those things are generally going to get done. Now, it's going to be a bit stressful, and we're going to kind of get those things done ahead of time where possible, not last minute. But the problem in your business is that it's the important, not urgent stuff that gets avoided. So for example, having an email newsletter or updating your website or posting on social media, like these are things that matter. They're important. They're going to help your business move forward. But if you don't do that today, the world is not going to end. There's not much urgency there. If you don't do it this week, everything will be fine. You won't even notice. But actually what can happen is suddenly, if you don't take action and update your website, for example, for a year, then you're not going to be bringing in as many clients. You're not going to be getting those opportunities. So it's important, but there was no urgency behind it. And this is a struggle a lot of people have, is that they're just stuck doing the urgent, important stuff. Whenever they get an email, they deal with that email. Whenever they have things in front of them, they do them. But what about these other things that are going to move your business forward? How do you make time for those things? So this is a really important topic. There's obviously a lot to it, but really helping you recognize that tasks have different levels of importance and urgency as well. Vera, I would love to hear your thoughts around this and the things you've taken away from this concept as well.
Yes, this is actually one of my favorite subjects that I've been writing in my blog for the past month or so, and it's basically this important but not urgent tasks. What falls into this category is like making work that you actually want to get hired for. So for me, that's also super important, because honestly, every client, especially the big clients, the dream clients that I wanted, the way I landed those clients is by making work for that. For example, I made a whole collection of book covers to be able to land my dream client and design a real book cover, or you know what I mean? So before you have to show your clients what you can do by making your personal work for your portfolio, and that way you build your portfolio. And that falls into this category of important but not urgent tasks, like personal work, that a lot of people struggle. And it doesn't matter in which, I guess, where you are in your business, whether your business is well established or you're just starting. Creating portfolio you want to get hired for pretty much pertains to any level of your business. You always want to put out work that you currently are inspired, that you want to do, and not always you get client work that gives you that opportunity to make work you actually want to make. So you have to make time to do that for yourself, and that way land you, and then do the outreach to the clients you want to work for, and that's how you land those gigs. So definitely doing all these eat the frogs, do the important and urgent tasks that you have, and then by working smarter and not harder, you are going to find the time to for these very, very important but not urgent tasks, which is your personal work and the work you want to get hired for. So yeah, definitely having a clear set schedule when you do what and set those boundaries, you're going to be able to make time for the important and not urgent tasks. Yeah.
I love that. It's so powerful. These are things that you don't really think about, when you're starting or when you're running your creative business, is that, we're all short on time. There is smarter ways to do things, right? We feel like we're trying to be inefficient. We're all just doing our best. But actually, these are these kind of fun, geeky tools and ideas that can increase your efficiency by a huge amount. Sometimes people think, oh, well, if I have a better system or a better, approach to my work, maybe I can become 10% more effective and efficient. But what we see is people can actually get 2 or 3 times the amount of work done, and they still have time to go for the walk, enjoy life, take Fridays off, whatever that looks like. That's part of it as well, is we're not just finding extra time to do more stuff in our business. Yes, that's going to be part of it, but what about finding time to relax, to enjoy, to go for that walk, to take the weekends off? So I love all these things here. Hey, we've got a couple more points we're going to be sharing, and then we'll hopefully have a little bit of time for questions as well. We'll just take a quick pause because I would love everyone to share their Instagram link in the chat. So key thing here is please share the link, go to your browser and grab the full link. Don't just write your @tag, because then if other people want to follow you, they can just click this link here. So just like I've done there, That's my Flammable Entrepreneur Instagram link. Yeah, if you want to go grab your Instagram, we would love to follow you. Both Vera and I would love to see what you're up to. I know we're connected with quite a few of you already, which is awesome. But yeah, we'd just love to connect in if you're open to sharing that in the chat. Then, as I said, what we will do, we're going to cover a couple more things around this topic, and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions at the end as well. So just wanted to take a quick pause, and then what you can do once you've pasted in your Instagram link is you can go through and follow other people as well. We love building community, supporting each other on all these good things as well. Awesome. All right, we're kind of going through some similar topics here around, working harder, we're working smarter, not harder. We've got to get these things around the right way. The next thing we're going to talk about is linked to many of these things, and it's what we call the one thing. Okay, so the one thing. The idea here is that either at the end of your day, so maybe last night, or in the morning, is defining what is the one thing I need to get done that's going to help with me growing my business today, right? The one thing. So this is, if this is the only thing that gets done today, I'll kind of reach the end of the day and I'll be like, well, that's okay. Maybe I didn't get all the other things done, but I got the one thing done. And this is something that is going to move the needle in your business. And once again, we're talking about whether you've even started your business or not. What is the thing that's going to move you towards maybe getting those first clients? Or if you've already been in business for quite a while, what is the thing that's going to help you grow your business? So the one thing is this powerful, quite simple, but very powerful concept that effectively says, like, you've got to define the things that matter. And just going back to those other ideas that we said, sometimes the one thing might be the frog, right? The thing that you're avoiding, and it's getting in the way of the other things that you need to get done. It's making you feel like you can't make this business work and you're hopeless and all that self-talk that can happen. Maybe it's the frog, or maybe it's one of those important but not urgent things. Finally actually doing the research around getting an email list started, or maybe finally doing that website update. But oh well, I've got all these other things on my list. It's going, no, like, do the one thing. And there's a couple of different ways to do this. I actually quite like blocking out time first thing to do the one thing. So that's one way to do it. It doesn't work for me very well when I'm in New Zealand because the time zone struggles here are kind of interesting. My day's kind of all backwards within there. I'm doing the one things at the end of the day, but where possible, if you can actually have that earlier on in your day. Now, those of you that have day jobs, that might not be possible, right? Because you might be getting up, going to work. Is it that you can get up a bit earlier and have some time for that one thing? Or is it the thing that you can do, when you get back or when you finish your work? Maybe you're working remotely from home. Is this something that you can get done during the day? So really thinking about, could you block out some time with the one thing, right? So we've even got clients who literally have that blocked on their calendar as a repeating daily task, and they label it the one thing. And it means that they've actually got 30 minutes or an hour blocked out to define to do that one thing. So if they reach the end of the day and they don't get anything else done because they're busy with other things, maybe they're busy working with clients or busy in their day job or with family, well, at least they got the one thing done. And I'll tell you what, if you're doing the one thing every day, you'll be blown away by what can be achieved even just in a month. You'll be going, wow, that's incredible what I've actually done towards my business. And maybe it's not every day. Maybe it's 3 days of the week that you do it that way because you're balancing with life and family and day jobs or whatever that is. But it's quite a simple idea. It's one of these simple techniques for being more effective and productive. But gosh, it's incredibly powerful as well. And we'd love to hear your perspectives on the one thing, Vera. I know that's something that's been really powerful for you as well.
The one thing has honestly been like transforming thing in my daily tasks, daily business, the daily stuff that I do. I every morning I do it preliminary for a week, and then I kind of like change it throughout the day, like depending on what happened that week. So definitely, like, it's set on always on top of my Asana tasks. It's always there on top, and it's really important because for that day, I know what needs to be done, what absolutely that day needs to be done. And like, we have a question here, what's the difference between the one thing and eat the frog? The one thing doesn't necessarily have to be the task that you you don't want to do. For example, for me today is to do something for the client project that I'm doing, like one step that has to be completed today. And that is the one thing. And eat the frog today was to prepare a reel, for example, for the post today, which something I had to do in the morning, the first thing, otherwise I knew it's not going to get done and I'm not going to post anything on social media. So that is basically the difference. And like, just by defining that one thing that needs to be done every day, you are going to end the day on a high note. You're going to feel like you've actually accomplished something, because that one thing that you set out that you need to do is going to be done. And if there's room for more tasks, the more the merrier. It's going to be better, but at least that one thing that needed to be done is done. So that's super, super important thing to know how to set that, and how to basically, for achieving any daily goals, is going to be a very, very important thing for you. Yeah.
I think, and another thing just to add to that, everyone, is like this stuff here, you're going to have to practice it. You're going to have to learn it. You're going to have to get better at it. We're not expecting that, if you've just come across this idea of eating the frog or doing the one thing, like, yeah, you might not be great at doing it at first. Some days you miss it. It's a struggle. You have it blocked out in your calendar, but it doesn't happen. Like it's just like training for something, right? If you're training for a marathon, right? Like, well, you're not going to be able to run the marathon the first day. Is you're going to actually start learning this concept, this idea, and taking action, and you'll get better at it, doing it over time, right? So eventually you'll be amazing at eating frogs and going, yeah, bring that frog here it comes, oh yep, we'll eat the frog. Or like, cool, I've got the one thing I need to do today and I'm going to do it. So we're not expecting you're going to be this effective, efficient person straight away. It's like, lean in, give it a go. And Vera talked about earlier on in the session, is like, even if you do it half-assed, that's actually okay, right? Take some action towards the one thing, or eating the frog as well. So really, really important reminders within the stuff is imperfect action is part of it as well. I love that. We've got one more thing, then we would love to dive into any questions that you've got. It could be questions literally related to what we've covered during the session here, during this training, or it could be questions for Vera or I, something you're interested about in terms of our businesses, you're curious about, always happy to share. Or it could just be a general question that's going to help you in your creative business. So you can actually start posting questions in the chat now. That would be really, really good. So we can actually allow some time for that as well. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover one more thing. But as I said, feel free to add any questions you've got into the chat, and we'll be able to dive into that for the final part of the session. So this final piece, number 5 here, is about effectively being a creative professional. Okay, and what does that actually mean? Well, it means actually doing the one thing. It means eating the frogs. It means being smarter, working smarter, not harder. Like, it means all of those things. And actually part of what you need to do is you need to lean into the space of being a creative professional, or professional creative rather. So I'm going to share a couple of extra thoughts around what you can do in the space to really help you make the time and be more of that professional creative. And one of them here is actually to have a defined workspace. That's really, really important. Now, I know not everyone can have a defined workspace, maybe in their home, because they're sharing their home with other people, but is there somewhere that you can generally work from? And maybe it is the kitchen table when everyone else clears out. That is your workspace. Or is it that you can set up a desk somewhere in a quiet space, and that's where you can create from, that's where you can work from? Right, so actually having a defined space that you can, it's like you can go to the office, right? So a lot of us work remote. You could go to a co-working space, you could go to an office space, but actually a lot of people working from home these days. Well, have you got a morning commute, right? The morning commute might be walking through the kitchen into a small alcove where you can have a desk. Like, that might be your morning commute, but it's very important that you can actually go there. And something like this morning, and by the way, New Zealand right now, very confusing, but it's actually 7:45 a.m. in the morning on Tuesday. Very confusing. We're in the future here. So like this morning when I had breakfast, I didn't come in here to my office and like have breakfast at my computer. No, like I had breakfast through in the dining room. I sat there and had it there. And then when I came to work, my commute was through one door. I'm then now in my office space. So that's part of being this professional creative, is actually having a space for work, but also that's where you work. I wouldn't then, at the end of the day, yeah, sure, maybe I want to watch something on my computer, but I'm not going to sit in my office and watch something. Well, no, you might take your computer with you. That's fine. We sometimes use our devices, but really defining that space is really, really powerful part of that as well. The final tip here I'll share is connected with this, is really around how you dress as a professional creative. Now, one of the amazing things about being self-employed and having your own business, maybe working from home, is you can kind of wear whatever you want, right? And okay, maybe if you're on a video call with a client or something like this, yeah, you might be able to go, okay, well, when I need to make sure I've got whatever you want to wear. But actually you might go, well, outside of that, I can wear my pajamas. Right now, that's totally fine. That's like, this is your business. You get to define that. The problem is, if you're wearing your pajamas, your subconscious mind's probably like, well, we're in chill out mode right now. So actually getting dressed to go to your job, which might be your business, is actually a really powerful and simple idea, right? So at the start of the day today, even if I wasn't on a call with you all today, I would go on, I put an outfit on that I want to wear for work, right? And then at the end of the day, this is almost just as important, right? When I want to finish up at 4 p.m. today, I will actually go and get changed. Now, I don't need to. The clothes I wear are generally comfortable enough anyway, but I go get changed. I go put on some comfy pants. I go put on a t-shirt, right? And a comfy sweater. And that's my relaxed clothes. So we can have these signals to actually tell ourselves, our subconscious mind and our conscious mind and the people around us, whether we're in work mode or not. Right, really, really important thing. And something people always laugh and they go, Logan, have you actually got any hair under that hat? And I'll say, I do actually have hair under here. I just had a haircut. So there you go. But this is one of my things. Like when I'm, Vera's like, yeah, I remember the hat. I love that. Like this here for me is one of my signals to myself that I'm actually in work mode. So I actually don't wear this hat when I'm not in work mode. And the funny joke is that sometimes when I'm about to like jump on a call with our clients, sometimes I can't find my hat. So I'm like running around the house going, where's my hat? I need my hat. I can't, it's part of my costume. It's part of my work uniform as well. So, we love to have a laugh around the stuff, but it's incredibly powerful as well. Incredibly powerful. Did you have any extra thoughts around this, Vera, before we jump into some of the questions?
Yes, absolutely. I actually do the same thing. I have to get myself almost ready for work. Like when I stopped working full time, of course I had this like office clothes that I'm not going to wear here at home, but I got myself a whole new set of nice clothes that is not like office. I'm not going to wear blazers, but it's like nice top or, just something that feels a little bit more comfortable, but it's still not like I'm working in my PJs. I always put on a makeup because it's just, if I look at myself in a mirror and I'm without makeup, like I just don't feel like I'm working. It just looks, I don't know, it doesn't look good. I don't feel good. It's basically more just about like what feels good for me, like how I feel ready to work on my tasks and just like, get myself ready and feel good. Because if I do it from my PJs, I'm going to be sleepy. I'm not going to feel good. Sometimes, it happened to me maybe once or twice where I was so busy that I didn't even have time to comb my hair. And the whole day I felt like I was like dirty, like I needed a shower. Like it was just this like subconscious that Logan is talking about, this subconscious thing that, your mind plays tricks on you. So it's very important to, get yourself ready, wake up properly before you sit to work. And just because you're at home, that doesn't necessarily mean as soon as you wake up, you should, because you're working from home, you should grab your laptop and, start doing emails and stuff like that. I also don't like to do that. I like to wake up properly, have my morning coffee, play my 2 dots to wake up my brain, and then when the moment comes, like whatever, 8:30, when I'm done, then I sit at my desk and I start working. So it's super important. And then also when I'm done in the afternoon, I also have my coffee to sort of signalize the end of the working day. Sometimes it goes further into the night, depending on what's going on that day. But I like to have something at the end of the day that's going to signalize, okay, now I'm done. Today, this is it. It's probably going to be a show, right? Put on a show and just like chillax.
I love it. So powerful. I love it. And, there's so many interesting topics here. You can see both Vera and I are very passionate about talking about these things. I think we could probably sit and be talking here for hours on it because this stuff is fascinating. Yeah. And it's about, how can we really move forward what we care about, what we want to do, what we want to create in our lives and in our businesses as well, which is good. So look, we're going to jump into the questions, and we won't be able to cover all of the questions, I will say that now, but we'll cover as many of these as we can. And I'm just going to add another link in there, which is that survey that I shared earlier on the call. This is for, giving away those 3 freebie calls that I'll be doing. They're going to be a 30-minute freebie coaching call. Now, if you're interested in that, fill out the survey, and everyone, we will be giving some feedback to anyway. But in addition to that, we'll be getting on calls with 3 people, which will be good. Or I'll be getting on calls with 3 people. Cool. I love that. So feel free to pop that open now. As I said, we'll send it out with the recording afterwards. We're going to jump into these questions here as well. And I'll definitely share any thoughts around them. And if Vera has anything to add, she will as well. So I think, Matt, you've got a really interesting one here, which is, have you ever spent years building an art business and then found that your second passion is starting to take over your first passion, which built your business? Is pivoting important, or should I keep going with my original business and just keep the second passion as a hobby? I think first thing here, Matt, well, one of the things I hate hearing is, well, it depends, right? It depends on the details. We probably need to dig in a little bit more into the types of passions and the types of things you're talking about here. But I think you've brought up a really interesting topic that we can definitely talk to, which is, how do we find what should be something we build a business around and what should just be a hobby? Now, the first thing, Matt, is like, this is up to you. You get to decide this. And that's a really cool, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's like, you should do this. You have to do this. This should be a hobby. This shouldn't be. Well, you get to decide these things, which I think is really, really important. Obviously, you then seek advice and talk to friends and coaches or people in your network about this thing, which is exactly what you're doing here. So I think, several pieces come into this. Is like, you've already spent a lot of time and energy building something, and you've got to make sure you find those lines of, what are you still passionate about within it? So I can give my background around this is that, one of the things in my previous business, I loved performing, right? I loved performing. And then as a fun kind of side hobby, right? It's a very interesting business. We were playing with fire and still walking characters' costumes. So I was kind of doing that for fun, as a fun hobby. And then I effectively turned that hobby into a business. Right. And you've gone through it as well. You've taken that passion and you've created a business around it. Now, yes, one of the big challenges of doing that is that suddenly your hobby, the thing that was kind of just for fun, has now become effectively your job in a way. Right. And this is an incredible thing that many people struggle with as well, is, okay, well, how do I still find time for having fun, for doing those things? Now, you may be able to do that within your business still, the creative parts of that. But also you might need to find other hobbies. And I think what you've shared here is like the second thing that you're passionate about there is, well, this thing, yes, you still need hobbies, and your hobbies may not be the original hobby that you had that you've now turned into a business, right? So with my performing, I then, because I was building a business around that, I had to find other hobbies, other things that I was doing. I got into a little bit of rock climbing, for example. I needed to find other ways to switch off. Now, that can still be the creative side of your business. So I was speaking to one of our clients the other day, and she was saying, well, Logan, do you think it's okay that I just take Saturdays to do the creatives, to just create? And they may or may not be designs that are useful for my business. And I was like, absolutely, that's totally fine. Of course, it's up to her. She might decide she's not going to work on the weekend at all, but actually being able to take some time to just do the creative side, but not in a facilitated way, more in just a play way. I think that's such an important piece of it as well. So, I know we haven't necessarily given you an answer there, Matt, but I think it's a really interesting subject to talk about. Vera, did you have any extras you wanted to add to those thoughts around kind of hobby versus the passion and business piece?
Yes, I don't have a personal experience, but I've also seen people, after a few years, they come to that point where, what they started initially is no longer such passion, but something else started to take over. And I've seen them actually sort of merge the two. So if there is any way for you to merge your first passion with the second passion, so you don't have to really start from scratch. Again, as Logan said, we need details, details would be better to know if that's a possibility, but maybe that is something for you to think about, whether there is a way for you to merge the two and see, if you can utilize previous experience with the new experiences.
It's so powerful. I love that. Absolutely, merging these ideas could be really important. So, Yoko, I've got so next one here. Any thoughts on best place to have your portfolio website. So probably once again kind of depends on what you're exactly talking about here. But if we talk about your portfolio, so the place where you have examples of your work in action with previous clients, this should really be in multiple places. So one place is, yes, on your website. You want to be able to have examples of your work on your website. One of the big mistakes I see people make is that they treat their portfolio as their services page or their offerings page, right? So you go to the website and they've got a tab that says portfolio, and then there's an about page, and then there's contact, and that's kind of it. And you're like, is this person like someone that does this as a creative hobby and they're sharing the stuff that they've done? Or is this person actually, am I able to work with them? Am I able to hire them to design something or to create something? So you need to really make it very clear by having basically a services page and offerings page as well as a portfolio. So these could actually be separate tabs on your website. And this is something I see people going, well, like that you've got examples of what you can do, but are you very clear saying, well, here's the examples, but then also here's what I actually do. I can create this, I can design this. What are those clear? It's kind of like a menu. So just make sure that on your website, you've got those defined things. Yes, you need examples. And it could actually be just an offerings page that says, I do this sort of design, and here's an example of working with a client. Like that's the other way people do it. But generally a portfolio is just more a bunch of different projects that you've done. You can certainly put that on your website. The other thing that you should do is have basically a PDF, like an attached document, which basically is a mixture of services and portfolio, right, that you can use. It's kind of similar to a proposal that you send a client, but it doesn't have your pricing in it. It just has examples of your work. And this is what you could send to potentially people that are interested, or, even in cold emails, if that's something that you're doing, you probably wouldn't necessarily attach it straight away. You could have it going to a place. You can actually host those PDFs, those files online, and then have them accessible via a link rather than an attachment on an email. Without going too deep into it, there's a whole art around cold emailing. One of the things is you need to kind of avoid having attachments where possible, but it could be a link. So any extra thoughts around that one, Vera, before we pop into the next thing there?
Yeah, I think it's a good advice, which you just said in the beginning, like just have your portfolio in multiple places. Like have a website. I think that's very important to have your own website, because that's what you can control, what you put on there and how people are going to find you. But also having a social media presence, utilize platforms like Behance as well to create, because a lot of people go there too, or Dribble. So yeah, the more the merrier, but just don't get overwhelmed by having to update too many things. So, just like Instagram is something you're already doing, you have your portfolio, and if you can find one more place, I think that stops, because you're just going to get overwhelmed and you won't be updating all of them. Yeah.
I love that. So powerful. So just acknowledging that we are almost on the hour now, so we will be wrapping up very, very soon. So I know there's a few extra questions. We are going to address maybe a couple more. So if you want to stick around to hear them, we will go to maybe 5 or 10 past. We'll see how we go. I know both Vera and I need to shoot away, but what we will do, if you do need to leave now, that's totally fine. We're sort of officially finishing now. But before you go, if everyone can share in the chat one takeaway from today, right? What's something that you found useful, interesting, hearing about, fascinating, maybe something you've learned, maybe it's something you can take action on. I'd love everyone here to share something in the chat, because it really helps us, Vera and I, to really understand what's been useful, and helps to share with other people some of the ideas in there, consolidate some of the things we've shared. So if everyone can share that, and then we, as I said, we will go a little bit longer to answer a few more questions, and then we will be wrapping up. But if you need to shoot away now, that's totally okay as well. Cool. So Yelena's sharing, doing creative work and business side are two different mindsets. I tend to get carried away when doing the creative stuff. How do you shift from one to another? Oh, I love this topic, Yelena. It's a powerful one. So look, I think there's so many different ways, but it's like you need to have a way to shift, and sometimes doing that is like a physical representation of it. So even I was talking about your outfit, like you could go and literally change your outfit. You could have like an outfit for your business side. That's more of that like creative professional. And then you have the side, which is your creative side, which is maybe more relaxed clothing. And it's up to you what you wear in these situations. That could be completely reversed in physical clothing wise, but what's something to signal to yourself, I'm shifting between these different tasks. So that's one way to do it. Another really powerful way is physical location. So this is where those of you that have the space for a studio versus an office, right? These could be the same place. These could be the same room. Can you actually have a desk which is your office desk and a desk which is your studio desk? Right, so you're not shifting things around all the time. One, that's a really great thing to do. And these could be physically in different spaces. Like, if you, once again, you could have a studio room and then you could have an office room. If you have that space, use it. That's phenomenal. That's amazing. But once again, as I said, it could just even be 2 desks or 2 setups, 2 tables. So really being able to separate these things physically to shift between them. And you might want to do something else like between the different tasks. Maybe it's go for a walk. Maybe it's go walk around outside. Maybe it's go do a 5-minute of yoga. Like, what's something that can actually physically separate these things as well? I think really powerful concept there as well. Do you have anything to add to that, Vera? And we'll keep working through a few more questions.
Yeah, for me, that's pretty much as Logan said. Like, when I'm doing my business stuff, I'm at my desk here emailing, looking like I'm in the office, you look all professional. And then when it's time to create, I like to actually go to my sofa, just chill, put on a Netflix and start drawing. Like, that's how I switch from one mode to the other. Sometimes I change clothes, sometimes I don't, depending on what I was wearing and that day. But yeah, that helps.
I love that. So Sharon, this next one here is a really interesting one. And the question is, are there any tips for balancing your various hats if you're targeting few but very different target markets, so separate website, Instagram accounts, and all of that? So first thing is that this is a hard thing to do, absolutely, because you're suddenly splitting your time, and we all know how hard it is to keep one Instagram account updated, one website updated, and now you're doing that with multiple. So kind of the first answer is, where possible, we try and keep it to one. Right now, I know for you that may not work and that may not make sense. There's going to be situations where you do need to have 2 websites or 2 Instagram accounts, etc. But the first thing is just questioning that and going, can we do things with one website, with one Instagram account? Often, people think, oh, but they're quite different target markets. They're different, different clients you're talking to. Well, yes, can you have different pathways on your website for those different types of clients? So in my previous company, we had like our very corporate clients, and we had our very like community-based clients. So quite different, but we actually had different pages for them. So there's different ways to do that. On your homepage, you could almost have different portals that you click, this type of event or client or whatever it is. You could almost go down a different pathway within your website. We just had some separate pages. One of them was like community events, corporate events, private events, and it kind of took, and then the style of the website from there was it's the same format, but it was just the way we were speaking was differently. So that's one way to do it. But is there a way to bring these things together creatively? Like with, say, your Instagram account, is it going to add value, you talking about both things? So let's say I had those community events and I had the corporate events. I might do one post on corporate, one post about creative. Now, maybe the creatives, maybe the people with the community-based business, maybe they find, oh, that's really interesting. They do the corporate stuff as well, and it actually adds value. Or maybe you do different products, different services for the different clients, but it adds the uniqueness that you do this other thing as well. Right. So for example, we've got clients that are muralists, but they also do logo designs. Now they talk about them on the same website, the same Instagram following as well. But it actually adds value to them as a logo designer that they also do murals. Now, you might not want them to do a mural as well as your logo design, but it shows that they're a really unique logo designer because they have these other areas of passions too. So just where possible, try and bring them together. But there's going to be situations where you can't, and you've just got to be very aware of where you put your energy. And you've got to keep both of them up, and it's going to be hard. I think that that's an important part of it as well. So I know that doesn't really necessarily answer the question there, Sharon, but really gives you some ideas to think about, can you bring things together? And if not, okay, you've got to be aware of finding that balance. Where do you maybe you're putting 80% of your energy into one Instagram and 20% into the other, and you're just aware that that's just what it looks like within that too. We'll go for another few minutes here. But did you have anything else you wanted to add on that there, Vera, before we jump into the next one?
No, that's pretty much it. Like the same thing, if there's an opportunity to put them all together on one page, you should do it because it's going to be easier. If not, then you have to look into how you can manage 2 different platforms. Yeah, pretty much.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it is a challenge. Balancing these things can be hard. So this next question here, Dalton, this will be our final question we'll answer because we will need to wrap up. I know there's some other ones there as well, and we appreciate that. If you do fill in the survey, you can actually, there's a section there to ask a question. You can put that in there and I can send you a thought around that. Cool. So this one's a really interesting one here, which is basically around, balancing things with the client project. So struggles getting invested into a project, then my budget is gone. How much time has been, with how much time you've spent, right? So you're basically saying, well, okay, I got paid, let's say you got paid $1,000, but then suddenly you're spending all this extra time and suddenly you're getting paid almost nothing at the end of it. Your hourly rate, if you work it out, ends up being $10 an hour. That's not enough to grow a feasible, sustainable business. So this is a big challenge a lot of people have. A lot of people I first speak to, they're finding when they actually do the numbers, they're just not getting paid enough for their time. So definitely lots of thoughts around this stuff here. Is one of them is this thing called scope creep. If you have not heard of scope creep, Google it, right? Scope and then creep. It's where basically what you've defined with the client goes over. So this is where having those clear boundaries, if you mentioned boundaries in there up front, this is what we're doing in this project. And some people even say, this is what we're not doing. Some people even define and say, cool, for you, let's say you're once again creating a logo, you're doing an illustration, doing design, you might say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm not doing. And you could literally have a list of things that you're not doing. That's how some people define it that clearly. The other part of it here is that when it goes over scope, so they say, oh, can you also just change the image size? Can you also create 3 different versions of this as well? And I'll just say, like the clients will say in the design space, they'll say, just one more thing. And that's a temptation for you to be like, oh, well, it's only a small thing. It'll only take me 10 minutes. Now, you get to decide whether you're just going to do it anyway. Of course, you get to decide that, but you need to make sure you're setting those clear boundaries as well and say, like, cool, just so you know, this is outside the scope, or this is outside of our agreement. Yes, I can do this one thing. So that's what you could say, but you've still defined, even if you're going to do it, you've defined it's out of that scope. Or you could say, just so you know, this is outside of the scope, there will be this extra cost. Is that fine? Right, so that's another way that you can approach it. So this is often one of the reasons why people go over their budgeted time for themselves or for the client, is because the scope is not clear. So setting those really clear boundaries up front, like when you agree, is so important. And perhaps it is in the contract. And you might also already have it clearly defined what happens if we go over. If you want more edits on a design, for example, the designer's here. Well, you've already told them up front, any extra edits, there's going to be an extra fee. And you could even have what that fee is. A lot of people might just add on, I then have an hourly rate beyond that. I will check with you before I let that happen though. Right, so that's probably the biggest piece of it there, is actually making sure you've got clear definition up front around that. Do you have any extra thoughts around that, Vera? I know it's a challenge for everyone in business, is the scope creep stuff that can happen.
Yeah. Here's also, I think I'm going to add here that it's very important to have your creative process really lined up, like really set up to know exactly what your process is. Because I think I understand what you're struggling with. It's like, yes, there is a project that you need to do, but you get so overwhelmed, like, and you want to like impress your client that you put in way too much work into your creative process. Maybe you give too many options for them to choose. You just go all in with the details, like in too early in the stage, and then every stage just takes up a lot longer than anticipated for you to complete. And yes, you complete it on time, but they don't know all the extra hours and hours that you put in just for them to see that final piece, which they're going to be impressed with. I know the reason why I'm saying this is because I've struggled with that. And, just wanting to impress my clients, I put way too much work into a sketch, and that sketch is going to get revised anyways. So basically, it's very important to have your creative process outlined. And also what I started doing lately is, in my proposal, I actually outline my creative process with my proposal. So in this stage, this and this is happening. This stage, this and this is happening. And that way the client also knows what work goes into which stage, which also kind of helps you justify your price. And you can definitely up your price that way, because your client is going to be completely aware of how much work goes behind the scenes. And then I also stopped putting too much time into details. So before it's time to finalize the artwork. So it's just everything is flat, everything is like, high level. And then once the concepts are done, set on, that like completely decided on, then I go into details and add all the extra stuff that goes with it. So that's another thing, like just having a really clear creative process.
Amazing. So many amazing points here. So look, it's been amazing connecting with everyone. We are going to wrap things up, and just loved reading through all the amazing takeaways from today as well. We really appreciate you showing up here, connecting with Vera and I. We absolutely love sharing our ideas and concepts and all these good things. It's been a great session, and thank you, Vera, for having me along as well. It's been great being able to be a guest here as well, and a lot of people in your audience here.
Thank you, Logan, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. It's always great to hear your wisdom. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, found it helpful. And if you have any questions, if you want to connect via DMs, please do feel free. I am going to be able to, I am available for you to DM me if you have any questions, and we can further chat offline.
Amazing. And you can DM me as well. Awesome. Hey, take care, everyone. So lovely to see everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day. We will be sending out the recording as well. Hey, take care. Awesome. See everyone.
Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.